for Medicare and Medicaid services. I actually started with 4 or 5 people. I said, hey, you know, I'm learning how to do this thing they call coaching. This is when I was at Georgetown University at the time. And so I was able to enroll them on, hey, what do you think? And it's kind of like, and so I was kind of putting myself out there. And they said, sure, well, you know, we'll do that. And once those 4, and that was part of the requirement via Georgetown, we had to get 4 clients to work with. After I finished, long before I even finished the program, I was getting requests from other people at CMS because those 4 people were telling other people about what they were getting from our conversations. And so that kind of expanded beyond that. Where at one time, gosh, I was there for many years. I left in started there in 1999, started coaching around 2003, 2004, and left around 2009 to go to another agency. And it was interesting, when I left, I was working with about 30 different clients at the time. That's how much this had become a groundswell. And so I don't recommend actually working with 30 people at one time, but they were in different different stages of the coaching process. And then thirdly, equip key leaders with the coaching skills. And here's where our idea came in. Here I was the only trained coach at CMS of an organization of about 4,500 to 5,000 people located in Baltimore and across the country. And here I went by myself. I had an OD team I was working with, but they had very specific skill sets and not necessarily coaching per se. They understood it. They were supportive. But I really couldn't talk to anybody about it. I felt like I was a lone ranger out there. And then it dawned on me to say, you know what? I spent, at the time, it was $7,000 on Georgetown. Now it's up to 15, maybe 17,000. And I said, wait a minute. There's no reason why, most agencies don't have the money to send people to those programs. It just didn't make sense to me. Why can't we develop these coaching skills in-house? And so, that was the idea. That was the big, hairy, audacious goal. The BHAG was, hey, you know what? We can do this better just because we're feds. And this is actually coming from an environment where we had internal consultants, but many organizations they contracted everything out. And if you ran out of money, well, too bad, so sad, right? You can't do what you want to do. And I said, that's unheard of. That makes no sense. And so not to do something will actually work just because you don't have money. And I never let no money get in my way. And that was always my key offer to the organization I went to was that you don't need contractors. I'm not against contractors, by the way, because you still need them as part of your vision of getting this, because our focus was on internal coaching. And so we also had a contract at the time for external coaches to coach our executives, because many executives would rather work with somebody outside the organization. And so our goal here was, and I'll share with you, I'll give you a little bit of a history and how all this came to be, and going back to the implementation strategy that CCL recommends. So from the very onset, the Federal Coaching Network, which started around the time of 2013, 2014 timeframe. And we all got together, the CLO Council at the time, and that's actually who's initiated this and who really pushed for something to be done about all these coaches and all these federal employees that were getting trained to be coaches. They wanted to know, what are we getting for our money? How do we use these people? We don't want to send these people off and then wait another 30 years and they retire and they go, contract back to us. We want to use that skill right now. And so we got together, and I called this the upper room experience. I was on the 7th floor in the OPM building at the time on East Street. And we all got together. We were kind of looking at each other saying, this is really exciting. Not quite sure what we're doing, but that's okay. But we came initially with 3 goals that the CLO Council wanted us to look at. And that was around creating a database about who was out there. I mean, literally, you know, government is so big, you got to shake the bushes, shake the trees, see what comes out. And we still don't know who all is out there. And then they wanted us to think about developing coaching guidelines or policies that would be implemented across government. And thirdly, determine the return on investment for coaching. And we did those things. And this, at the time, while this was happening, I actually was working, I actually had developed my own curriculum at HHS. And we had piloted with about 20 people. We had piloted our first boot camp, we called it, okay? And it was a 7-month program, but we had like 5 days in person, you know, kind of crunched in there together. And then we met afterwards for 7 months for people to, you know, get practice and get mentoring and get feedback on that. And I had this, again, going back to this, I remember the day, I remember what I did. I said, I don't know if you've ever been in a situation and said, what are you doing? What are you doing? Just like slow motion. I raised my hand, and the meeting was about to adjourn. And I raised my hand. I said, okay, I'm really putting myself out there. And I said, I have this big, hairy, audacious goal. And here's what it is that we should be able to do our own training program for feds, by feds, and have it ICF accredited. And then drop the mic, right? And so, and all of a sudden, as I didn't hear a pin drop, I said, oops, you know, I just kind of put myself out there. And all of a sudden, and everybody said, that's a great idea. And these were, you know, people in the room were already trained coaches. They were already doing coaching within their agencies. And many have had their own experiences, their own training programs they brought in contractors with. They said, this is perfect. I said, oh, I know, what did I just get myself into? And so I didn't realize the amount of work that would be, but it was certainly worth it. And so our vision, here's what the vision came up, and especially around the Federal Coach Network, and in line with the Federal Internal Coach Training Program. This is the big, hairy, audacious goal. Every federal employee has a coach when they need a coach. I'm still committed to that. That is my reason for being now in my federal career, is to train as many people as possible, that no employee, whether a GS1, they're a uniform service officer, public health service, NOAA, the 4 branches of our military, does not matter, that anyone who needs a coach can get a coach. And then the other thing was, this was our goal, was to create a government-wide coaching culture. And this is what we were talking about. We were still trying to figure out what that looked like and what that was, but we kind of knew if everybody had conversations like a coach, boy, what could possibly happen, right? The big one was, this was even bigger than government. We wanted to take over the world through coaching one person at a time. And for the sake of creating transformation in governments, and I mean that plural, organizations, communities, families, and individuals. And that's the big, hairy, audacious goal. And we're still on that goal. We're still on that path. That's kind of our North Star, if you will. So this is just a picture of the last time we were together in person. That's the other thing about this program. It required us to be very flexible and very resilient. And then I can tell you more about the struggles we had initially and how we overcame them. And when you're developing a community, it starts out as I got one idea, and then my own learning experiences from this as a leader was I had to give up my own kind of sense. I had to give up my own vision a little bit. And what I mean by that is I had a very specific idea about how we should do the training. It was very specific. It was very much, it was modeled after the Georgetown program, with many additions and, a couple of modifications. It's pretty much modeled from the vantage point of an ontological approach, meaning, focus on the person, focus on the who. And so, but many other people who were with me on this journey, they came from different schools, different approaches, different philosophies. So somehow, with all these people very committed to the same thing, but they all had very different feelings, reactions about how do you make this happen. So there was a time where, it looked like more of a dysfunctional family than anything else initially, trying to figure out what in the world are we trying to do here, right? And even when we first implemented the first boot camp, and nobody liked the word boot camp, that's why we're calling it a program. So you have to change. You have to change with your audience. The mentors got together, and knowing how I knew how to coach, it was my philosophy, my perspective, and we had met for a year around the curriculum, and it was very interesting too. About once people see it implemented, someone has to be willing to put themselves out there to say, all right, we got to do this. And I knew it wasn't going to be right in the classical sense. And I just had to put it out there and say, let's get it done. Then we'll go back and we'll change it. And that's what we did. And we had many meetings during the first offering of the boot camp about what direction, where the curriculum should go. And I was fighting for an ontological approach. Others were fighting for their own particular philosophy. Others were fighting for, let's just teach them how to solve problems. And and none of those were bad ideas. None of them were. It was just trying to come up with a balance. What are we trying to do for the federal government? And then, after I had to let go of my ego a little bit here because I had my clear vision. This was my big, hairy, audacious goal. Well, one lesson I learned with this, in order to lead effectively, you have to give it up. I had to be willing to give it up and let the community actually kind of gel together on what it was it wanted to do. And that happened. That really happened. It was amazing. After we finished the program, it was completed. We had what, 80 people graduated. It's amazing. We had, and you imagine 80 people in a room together from almost 30 different organizations. Think about that. And all probably not ever working together before. And to come together in this situation, we kind of gelled as a whole community. The FCCP, the actual goals of the program were pretty simple: to create a cadre of effective and competent coaches across the federal landscape. Also to create a supportive learning community of committed coaching practitioners. And the big one was to create a government-wide coaching culture. These were our express goals at the time. They still are. They're still in play for us. And the learning objectives here, you can certainly, I'm sure you'll get a copy of this. I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on them, but you can see all the things that we're looking at, particularly, what coaching is and what it isn't. Identifying how similar related disciplines like counseling and mentoring are different from coaching. And you need counseling and mentoring. And one of the things that I encourage our participants, get a therapist, get a mentor, and engage in any other helping professional that you can find, either someone in the clergy, someone else that you trust, highly trust, to help you, because you're going to need it as you go through the program. Because one of the things about training effective coaches, we have to be able to look at ourselves first. We have to work on ourselves first. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to be working on ourselves. And that's the beauty of coaching, because it is not an expert role like a counselor is. You have to go to so many years of schooling, take a test, get so many years of supervised experience, and then finally get your license. Then you go out there, drop your shingle on a doorstep and nail your shingle on a doorstep, on a door frame, and say the doctor is in. Well, coaching is not like that particularly. Coaching is very much a different relationship. And then we talk about ethical standards and confidentiality and all those issues that come up in a coaching relationship. In particular, I have found personally, and I'm sure other internal coaches have found this, there are other issues that are affecting internal coaches that do not affect external coaches. And part of the things that we actually focus on are all those conundrums and ethical dilemmas that we seem to find ourselves in. And then develop a personal and professional philosophy of coaching. So yeah, we're showing them a whole wide range of possibilities, and we encourage people to develop their own philosophy around what they're doing. And of course, demonstration of skills. We have them do we have them do 3 recordings. The last recording is kind of a final exam, but not a pass-fail because we want you to pass. We just let you do it over again. Because we're looking to demonstrate the ICF competencies. And also utilize an effective framework. And I'll be sharing that framework here in a minute. Receive feedback. So our whole environment was around giving and receiving feedback, encouraging people to get past their stuckness, if you will. And then demonstrate a growth mindset through ongoing reflection, self-awareness, and self-management. So that's really what we do in the program itself. More of the history here, and I can go into a lot more stories here. Our first offering of the boot camp was at HHS, and that came about because we had a need, and the need was we had all these executives that we were putting through 360. We didn't have the money to hire coaches to help the executives get coaching on the instruments. So I said, all right, well, what do we do? And a colleague of mine, literally, I had this dream, and I talked to my colleague about my dream, but I just didn't know how to implement it at first. So she literally sat me down in my office, locked me in my office, and I still have the picture of the whiteboard today. And that whiteboard was in my office for years, and I never erased it until I left it. And we had actually mapped out the entire program, and it's not that different than what we originally mapped it out to be, what it is today. That first offering was a pilot, and the second offering was another pilot. We invited USDA to also half the participants were from agriculture, the other half from HHS. And we invited OPM, around the same time. This is when the FCN was being formed. We had invited members, a couple people from OPM to sit in on it so they could evaluate it, see if it's worthwhile. The next thing you know, yep, we want to do it. And this is also part of the strategy where you invite key players to actually see the benefit of coaching for themselves and actually train them in coaching skills. And then 2014, that's where we implemented the first federal internal coaching boot camp now program. And we were honored to get I think we tied for first place that year with another USDA program, if I'm not mistaken. But that was a great honor. And that same year, in 2015, where we were officially granted the approval from ICF. And ACSTH stands for Approved Coach-Specific Training Hours. And that's what it stands for. And then we started doing it every year. It seemed like we were just ramping it up. Got more people in the program. Another 80 also signed up for cohort 2. During 2015, 2016, one of our participants and former colleague at CMS, Denise Bailey-Jones, said, you know what, I would love to start the Journal of Federal Coaching. And that year we introduced it, and it fell for a couple of years. Now we're reintroducing again hopefully this year. So I have a conversation again on how do we get that started. And that was for the folks who wanted to be a little bit more scholarly with what's going on in the federal space and talk about some of the issues that are being raised there. And then during 2016, we developed our own coaching framework, which I'll share with you. And then in 2017, Cohort 4, we developed mentor coaching training, was introduced, and we had a team of people who all went out and got ICF assessor training. And so then we trained each mentor coach how to do that and train them how to be mentors. So a team of us did that. And then the Cohort 5, that year, while this was all going on, other agencies were actually starting out the program. We gave them the curriculum. And of course, these folks were either on our governance board, they were either who were former instructors or still instructors in the program today, or went through the program and already had the prerequisite requirements to get to teach it. So the Transportation Safety Administration and the Department of Veterans Affairs within the VHA, Veterans Health Administration, they came up with their own cohorts that year. And so this was also part of the big, hairy, audacious goal, that we would be able to spread this out beyond just the federal program. And then in 2019, 2020, the Treasury Executive Institute, which you'll be hearing from Mary Kate Doherty on the 16th, and I'll be on panel with her. She approached me and said, "Hey, we'd love to be able to take this." And I tell you, what a terrific partnership that has been. And once you start partnering with people on this, it makes the larger program much better, because she was doing some stuff that was really cool. And I said, we got to do it with our program. And so this is how we created that better program, because of what they were doing locally. And then in 2021, we're in the middle of our 6th cohort right now. It's our first virtual cohort. All the other cohorts up to this point, including TEIs, were in person until it wasn't in person anymore. We had to do a major shift. I'm telling you, here I was a Luddite as a trainer for years and years. I loved to be able to perform, facilitate, do what I did, and to be able to do this virtually was a major shift for us. And we weren't sure how it was going to turn out. We had to rethink our entire philosophy. We had to rethink our entire way of being around it. And within this virtual cohort, we also realized that I don't have to chase down, OPM and myself, we don't have to chase down free rooms that will hold 200 people. This is the beauty of the virtual space. I'm no longer limited by the amount of people I have to, I'm no longer limited by the room size. Now, as long as you have a platform that'll support it, now we can have 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, possibly. Won't be that big, but because we don't have enough people to support it, but it's possible. So this year we decided to, and this is a really great, of great importance to me, because I'm on it's the Food and Drug Administration, right? And I'm on the food side. So we put the F in FDA. So all the centers and offices that deal with foods, we wanted to introduce this whole concept of how do we change our culture within the foods program. So because of other initiatives from Congress, Food Safety Modernization Act, this was a really great time to say, how can we actually change our culture as envisioned by the act, FSMA. And so we decided, why don't we get people from all different parts of the foods organization, teach them how to coach. We have scientists, we have compliance officers, investigators, training people, and other non-HR types who are in this cohort learning how to coach, with the intention of going back. They're going to be going back and coaching and telling people the good news around coaching, what it could do for them in their specific specialty. And these are scientists. These folks are hardcore scientists, and this is what they do all day. They review, they study, and they investigate, they write policy. So we wanted to see what's going to happen now with all those people trained in that. And GSA also had, and that's 9 people that I'm leading. So I'm leading the larger cohort, and I'm leading these 9 people. So that's been an interesting adventure. The TSA pilots too, TSA also wanted to latch on, do what we were doing. Now they have 12 people in that little pilot, and they're self-contained. We have 100 participants this year, and we could probably do more. So we're in the conversation about, okay, what is our limit? And we're only limited by the amount of mentor coaches that are available to support the participants in the program. And then this also, in 2020, the Department of Interior started their cohort, and they're also virtual. So they're in the process of finishing up. TEI and IRS and the VA are also starting their cohorts in this year. Actually, VA started, I think they started already, or this month, and TEI will be starting another cohort in May. So it's exciting. And I'm also getting calls from DOD. I'm getting calls from the military side of DOD. And there are other training programs as well out there. I know on the intelligence side at DIA also, the DIA Theodora Fitzsimmons program was nominated for a PRISM Award for what they were doing last year by the ICF. So there's all kinds of stuff going on out there, not just what we're doing. And so what's really great about what HUD also has their programs that their training programs they've been offering. So what's the great thing about this is we're not in competition with each other. We're supporting the greater audacious goal. In that what's happening in many of the HUD people, many of the DIA folks who went through their program and other programs, they're supporting the larger program now. And so I'm supporting their program. It's a really wonderful collaboration across government. Now, I wanted to kind of stop there to see if there were any comments, questions. Oops, let me go back. I want to look at any. Mel, is any questions in the chat box at this point? Just curious.
Nope, there's no questions
right
now.
Okay. And how am I doing on time? It's like, yeah, but another 20 minutes. So we also, part of our kind of struggle, if you will, we wanted to kind of, every coaching school has their own unique model. And so what we tried to do was, create our own model that kind of best fit us. Now, the Tigro model, you'll learn also from Alan Fine, who also uses the Tigro model in his work. The Tigro model has been around for a long time. Initially, I think Sir John Whitmore wrote a book on performance coaching, and there's like thousands of models out there on coaching. We just chose Tigro because it's simple, easy to remember. And then as you look, what we tried to do is that where the competencies you see around the outside, those are the ICF competencies. And there's all these other things like communicating effectively, cultivating learning and results, also seeing, being, sensing, saying, and doing. And so what we were trying to do was kind of create something as a holistic model around what is it we're trying to do as a coaching community. And ultimately, using the ICF coaching definition, is partnering with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. And so what we're looking at is, okay, we're training you how to ask powerful questions using the Tigro model, as this is how you manage the conversation. The coach is in the process of being, seeing, sensing, saying, and doing, because they also have to be with the client. and the coach is also then demonstrating these competencies. So it becomes a systemic whole. It's not just one set of conversations, but it's also the relationship. And now with the new competencies, a systemic approach is not just talking to the individual. When I talk to an individual now, I'm not talking to the individual about their individual goals only. I'm also talking to the organization they represent. So what they're doing and who they want to be in the world cannot be taken out of the system that they're operating in. So if I'm working with somebody from the Federal Aviation Administration, I'm not just looking at that individual. I'm also thinking about, okay, how is this affecting, what's going on in his or her own environment that may be getting in the way of, his or her goals. So I'm also having that conversation. And also being aware of what may be going on there. Right now we're in the midst of COVID, and we're all affected by COVID in some way. And so what is that doing? I'm listening for that as a coach, and I'm helping the client figure out where they fit and what they are able to do. Okay. And I also wanted to share with you, because up till now, it's been a kind of a ragtag team of people getting together doing this. No contractor dollars, no funding. I mean, it's like, this literally is just a service of love. And what we wanted to do, our big goal, also a big part of the big, hairy, audacious goal, we wanted this not to be the cult of personality. You always need somebody to kind of get it running. There's always what they call founder-led organizations, and ultimately they reach a point where they just kind of they don't stall out, but it's like you get into a groove, so to speak. So what we decided was to develop a governing board, and these were the people that are people on the board are there for various reasons. They're running their own programs, or they were with us from the very beginning, or they're key players in other training programs. And so we wanted to include all those people to say, okay, the governing board is always there to make sure I'm on point, and then and we work as a collaborative by consensus, and then coming up with new ideas, new approaches, new curricula, new services that we could be offering through the Federal Coach Network. And so it's all within this structure. And we have, of course, many of you may know Elizabeth Winters, Tiana Young. They're both graduates of the program. Their OPM assigned them to be program managers. And then under me is what we call senior mentor coaches. And those people are qualified by ICF to be mentor coaches. And those are credentialed individuals with years of experience, as well as a particular credential to serve in that role. And then we have our training director, Ruth Britt, who's an instructional designer for the TSA, coaching program manager now for them. And so she helps us keep the curriculum on. So she's kind of it's like herding cats for her, trying to get everything together and to keep myself in line. And keep the training moving, and she does a really great job at that. And then we have people that actually are what we call assistant or junior mentor coaches. Those are folks that are ICF certified, and they lead the mentor coaching groups and provide feedback in session, on tape submitted for review. And then we have what we call support coaches, where they'll partner with the mentor coaches to support the new coach development. They're what we call, these are graduates of any coaching program. It doesn't have to be ICF. But these folks actually provide support, and they're what we call mentors in training. And so that's how that's the big, hairy, audacious goal. Go through our program, go through it again as a support coach, learn more about, and we'll show you what's under the hood, because we'll train them to be mentor coaches as well. Then we have what we call mentor coaches, and these are anyone with coach training, either by ICF or any other organization, that just want to give back. And so they provide coaching to the students. Many are parts of our program, and they're working on their coaching hours. Yeah. And then that's really, this is the support structure that we have in place for our training program. And there's actually more to it, but I just wanted to kind of share this with you. Mel, I see that there may be a question, and I just wanted to check in with you.
Yes, we actually have two questions. One's from Steve. How do you convince others of the importance of coaching, specifically the non-believers, that coaching is a powerful tool in our arsenal?
You know, that's a great question. And I'm just going to be very simple, very plain, about that. Coaching really, and I'll share with this later in the presentation, but coaching is a relationship. And so I love the non-believers. I love the skeptics. I love them because then I can show them just by my questions or having them think differently because I asked the question or I was listening deeply and just listening to what their challenges are, listening to what else might be possible. I'm not giving advice, I'm just letting them come up with their own answers. And that's what I mean by showing people convincing is a really bad leadership strategy. I can't convince anybody to become a coach or do coaching for themselves. I have to show them what's possible. I hope that seems like a pretty simple answer, but it really is profound if you think about it, because that really requires me to be ready to be a coach at all times. So what's the next question you have?
This one comes from Shanda. You mentioned part of your goal is to offer coaching to anyone in the federal community. How does someone connect with a coach?
That's a great question as well. Well, there are several opportunities here. Each agency on paper is supposed to have a point of contact for coaching within their agency. And we're still working through it. OPM's trying to develop systems in place. But you can actually contact your coaching program manager, a request to coach, or you can ask the Federal Coaching Network. There's a listserv that they offer that you can become part of. You can say, hey, I need a coach. And I get requests all the time, which I can't fulfill, but I'll either give it to a program coach or one of the students to get their practice. So that's always going to be by an individual agency perspective. But if you do want to coach and nobody has a coaching program in their agency, call Liz or Tiana, or you can actually reach out to me. Any other questions?
I'm not seeing any other questions right now.
All right. So everything is clear as mud so far. So I wanted to share with you my lessons learned. And these are mine alone. I'm sure other people have their own lessons too. But I just wanted to kind of share those with you. I many years in government, I've known asking forgiveness is far easier than begging for permission. And here's what I mean by that. No one told me and nobody gave me permission to offer the program at HHS. There was a need. I saw the need. We came up with a solution. We did it. Yeah, I had to enroll my immediate supervisor, but no one else in the organization knew what we were doing. Okay. And a couple of reasons for that, because there were a couple of naysayers in the organization at that time. So we needed to actually have data that says this is a good thing. This is going to be useful. Showing, demonstrating, and experiencing is more effective than convincing with logical papers or presentations. Us, we in the federal space, we love to write papers, do presentations, and provide the numbers and give an ROI on something. None of that works. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. I'm so, I can have an argument with you on that all day long, and you would not convince me otherwise. People make decisions once that you show how powerful it is. You demonstrate to them what they can get out of it and have them experience it. Period. That's how people make decisions. They have to see something in it for themselves. If they don't, they'll say, "Oh yeah, don't call us. We'll call you. You go do that." Right? How many times have we done that in our careers? Make a presentation to executive boards or whatever, and they go, They didn't see it. They didn't see themselves in it. And so, from this experience, this is how I do all my work now. I don't try to convince anybody to do anything. I just do. And if you're waiting for permission, you'll be waiting until you're very gray and sitting in your seat for a long, long time. I mean, I hate to be crass about that, but it's true. And so there has to be some way you can be proactive and let people know this is powerful. Here's how I'm going to show you how it's powerful. And then with that, though, I don't mean go out there and go wild and reckless abandon. We still work for the taxpayers. We have to take educated and strategic risks to go out there, even if you have to call something a pilot for 10 years. We have such a risk-averse culture in the government. And so do whatever you got to do to help people with that need and make sure they're not going to go out. You know how the government is, right? We all know. We don't have to even talk about that. But if you take an educated and strategic risk, you show people where it actually is good for them and where they can actually benefit from it, then that risk is not so big. And around that, too, is having conversations that enroll others in the journey, again, by showing how their involvement will be beneficial to them. Help them see the vision as part of their own vision. That's a really key point. If they don't see it, they don't feel it, they're not with you. Oh, and also expect all kinds of bumps and roadblocks along the journey. This is what this life's all about, right? Because we do have the naysayers and the non-believers, if you will. We're always gonna bump up against those folks. That's okay. We do our best to coach them. We do our best to show them, have them experience, and we work around them. We just continue doing what's right for the purpose of, remember, transformation for ourselves, others, governments, communities, federal government, right? And also, just remember, it's a journey, not a destination. What I found was you got to have a lot of resilience, flexibility, and a steadfast vision are those key competencies to be successful in doing any type of change initiative. And I just have, Steve, I know we're running out of time. So what's next, right? Just want to make sure we got 3. Just kind of let you know, we're trying to formalize our charter. We're going to be introducing coaching supervision for further professional development. We're going to consider training for coaching supervisors, expand the FICTP to agencies, and expand FCN offerings to provide ongoing support and training for coaches. And who knows what else is next, right? It depends on what their vision is. This is what's great about our community, is that people have their own vision and then they're moving forward with it. And that's all I have, Steve. My contact information right at the hour.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Alan. I really appreciate it. That was a great presentation. I really appreciate it. You even handled my curveball that I tossed you. So well done on that one. Mel or Chris, can we have Alan, you might need to stop sharing, please. We just need to fill up the slides for the credit.
Okay, hold on. How do I stop sharing? They're right there. Great.
There you go. And as Mel and Chris are pulling it up, I want to say thank you to everyone that is attending. This was our very first session in a long series, and we're going to go to the beginning of this slide deck. Perfect. These are the remaining sessions that you actually have. You see these also in your feed loop connection on underneath sessions. As I mentioned, February 9th, we're going to have a much deeper resource sharing where we provide you some information, get together and kind of talk about it. February 16th, we have a panel of moderated panel, and it is fantastic. February 23rd, we are going to have some wrap up on 1 o'clock Eastern time. And this is also where you're going to be able to sign up for 3 of your free coaching sessions with certified coaching. So it is certainly something you do not want to miss. Next, I want to go to the folks that sponsored. Myself, you heard me talking about it from Cornerstone, but we also would not be here were it not for PTG International. Eugene D. Robot also is instrumental in delivering this content to you, and we thank our partners at PTG International. Thank you. It has been a pleasure. Alan, thank you so much. It was a pleasure listening and hearing from you, and congratulations on some of the fantastic things that you've done for the federal community, for FDA, and for yourself as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve.
And that concludes us. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.